Hey there. So in this video, we will be working with promises. More specifically, we want to pass a parameter to a promise, which can be confusing. So let's just get started. As you can see here, I just made a click me button in the div. I'm using React, by the way. So this is React, and I just made a click me here and handler right here, handle click. And inside here, if I type in console.log, I don't know, test. And then over here, when I click on this, click me, it shows up here test. So I'm outputting this function here onto the browser. Let me see if I can make this bigger. There we go. That's a little bit better. Test. Okay. So um so suppose that you have okay, let's just make a couple promises. So let's make a promise here and let's say promise 1. And a promise is basically used when there's some sort of asynchronous process that takes time, and you want it to wait until it's finished its process for you before it returns an answer to you. And sometimes you might get undefined or some sort of error is because they're trying to read information before you even have the information. So you want to get so you want to have like a little to wait. So anyways, let's just get to it. New promise. Is that how you spell it? I think with a capital P. There we go. New promise. And everything you have, basically inside this promise, you're going to be putting a function. Um, so there we go. And then, so you have your function inside this promise. And inside this parameter, you can put two things, but you can put one thing if you want to. You can put a resolve and reject. And resolve is what you're basically is like the return. So I'm gonna type in resolve, and you can put a reject here if you want, but I don't even bother. You can if something screws up, then it's nice to have a reject, but I'm gonna assume nothing's gonna screw up, so I'm not gonna put a reject. And you do that, and so basically, what you want to basically what you want to return is if you type in resolve, and whatever you want to return will be inside this bracket. So I can say test there, resolve test. So up here is up here would be the stuff like the stuff you're gonna do, and resolve is basically the return is what is returned. There we go. So that is our promise. And I don't know, let's you can do except often there's often a lot of online processes that goes in here. And then you just return whatever the result of the online process right here. And if you so here is resolve, and if you do a reject, you can say what happens if an error occurs. So to get this working, to see what the promise 1 is, the console log it, you're gonna have to use you have to make it so you can either make this asynchronous by typing async up here to make it asynchronous because promises are asynchronous, or you just type in here um type in another function. I'm gonna call it, it's called instantly invoked function, something along those lines. So you have your function here. That's just a regular function, and to make it instantaneously invoked, you put that in brackets, and then you put two brackets in front, right? And then you do that, and you type in async, async, right there, and then you would call in console log, and then it's put in promise 1. And to get this to return something, you have to type in await. So console log promise 1 await. So you need this await there. So if you use async, you need the await. So let's do the click test. See, it's now returning test. It returns whatever's inside here. It'll return. Let's say test 2 and test 2. So you can do like a whole bunch of processes here, like a whole bunch of complicated processes here. And when it's finished, then you put it into resolve. So it'll wait until this promise is like finished doing whatever needs to be done, and then it outputs it here. But it waits. And what you can do is you can put this in a parameter or in a variable. Let's say let's say result 1, and then await promise there. So you put that in a variable. But what if you want to do another promise? Let's say you want to do two promises and they both like take up time. Like you need one to wait after the other. So, and you want to, let's say you want to pass the result of this test 2, the results, whatever this is, into the next promise. So what you can do is you make a function. So let's say let's you can call it whatever you want. Let's say promise 2. So I'm just making a function here, and there's a couple ways you can make a function. You can do the traditional way, or you can do it the new syntax way. The new way of making functions these days is it's like this: promise 2, and then you have your brackets there, and then um, arrow, and then that. That's the new way of making functions these days. You can do the old way, but this is just fine. And what you want to do is you want to type in return, and then you make these brackets, and those brackets is just basically basically means you're returning, like means multi-line. You're returning a multi-line process. So you're returning a new promise. I believe, yeah, new promise. And then same thing what you did here. You type in a function inside your promise, and then that there, and then you have your, oops, this is supposed to be capital P, and this is your resolve. You can have reject if you want. You can have a reject if you want, and you can say do something. Well, this is just a comment. Do some more stuff, and you can return like what to return, and then resolve whatever you want to return. Let's say test 3 there. But let's say, but we mentioned earlier we wanted to hold on, return. Yeah, I think this has to be, well, this is fine. Um, so you want to pass in, let's say, the results of this. So over here will be the data, or whatever you're putting in, data, and then over here you can say data plus, or just to say my string or previous string, or yeah, my string over here, my string here, and so now we have this here, and so essentially we're chaining these two promises. This is promise 1 and this is promise 2, and yeah, I believe that's is how we're going to do it. Let me save this. So we have promise 1 here, and then we say let result 2 equals await, and we called it promise 2, Yeah, we call it promise2, and we put you can take a parameter and say let's say the parameter is result1, right? So it's going to take in the result1. Result1 is test2, and it's just going to add, it's going to concatenate test2 and test3 together. So let's say console.log result2. There we go. And let's see if this works. Let's clear this. Let's click on the click. Here we go. Test2 and test3, they're concatenated together. Maybe we should put a space there. Space. And yeah, let's put a space here. It's a little nicer to see. Test2, test3. And that's it. That's how you pass a parameter onto a promise.